All right. Thank you for joining me today, guys. What I'm going to uncover for you, if you're first time to this channel or first time to this webinar, is the real reason you don't have motivation. Now, I've been working as a strength coach for a long time. And as we get into this, I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. It can seem incredibly complex, but I like to break it down. You don't have a grasp. I tell people this all the time. You don't have a grasp of the information unless you can break it down to something a kindergartner or young adult can understand. Why your mind is not your own and how it impacts your ability to get healthy. Let's get started. So, the first thing, why listen to me? Experience. I've been in the trenches and I'm involving in testing. And what this means for me is I've been working at this for 30 years, helping others get strong, grounded, and really enjoy their lives. I've been full time RVing with my family for the past 10 years, and I get to play sports with my kids every single day and interact. I'm active and healthy. Right now I'm currently training and have been training jiu-jitsu for the last 14 years. I train 2 to 3 times a week. I recently turned 50 years old and I still do all of this. So the proof is in the pudding, and I've also helped people for a very long time. Now, one of the big things I like to talk about is that a lot of this, what we're going to break down, will change the way you look at yourself and workouts and maybe nutrition and all of that. Because really, guys, it's not your fault. What are the systems that are working against you? First, big pharma. It's hijacking medicine and health. And the big reason we know this is over the last few years, you've probably realized that, look, if you're still a belief that health lies potentially in a doctor's office, maybe at this point you should probably stop listening to this, because most people that I work with have an understanding that that is really a system that's built to help stockholders make more money. Big medicine is no different than big pharma. One prescription per med per decade. I have a very good friend who recently called me and said he had to tell his doctor that I'm not working with you because the doctor insisted that he was in his 40s. He should have already been on one prescription medication per decade. So 20, 30, and 40. After 30, he should be on 3 medications. He's on no medications. And the doctor was insistent on that. And he's like, well, first off, I don't have anything that is wrong with me. I'm here on a physical. Like, why are you actually saying this? Right? Big food, food lies. Really the biggest challenge. And I actually uncovered this when I was in my upper division um, at the university. And I would have discussions with the instructors, with the professors there, about how success was leaving clues and the things that I was executing. I was really into working out from middle school. I realized working out and eating right made me better at my sports. And particularly when I took wrestling seriously in high school, I really refined it. And when I needed to drop weight to make weight for a weight class, I did a certain things and was able to drop the weight and perform at a high level. And so what we're really at a time where the food industry has hijacked what you think, even the food guide pyramid, is really completely a lie. And so if you think you can eat 8 to 12 servings of carbohydrates a day and still drop weight, you need to ask yourself who is in charge of making that information that is telling you what it takes to be healthy. Now, the other thing is that it's not really your fault, because society, what is normal? And I'm about to give you some numbers, which you probably already have a fairly good idea of. Here in the United States, we spend 4.5 trillion, that's with a T, guys, on healthcare in the US. It's shocking, though, that we are, of the developed countries, at the bottom of the list as far as health. Now, it's these kind of numbers that should have you scratching your head. Additionally, 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. We're clearly not, we're consuming, our nutrient density in our food is completely changed. Soil has changed, food has changed. And look, even now we're looking at children. We're over 40% of children are struggling with being overweight and obese. Like these numbers are not going the right direction. And so everything is set up for you to fail. Now, this one is another one, 129 million. 45% of Americans have at least one chronic disease. And I think this has to do with, first, our food, first, the stress, first, lots of different things can feed into this. But what is chronic disease and where does it come from? And I'm about to help you understand that and hopefully give you an insight in why you are not motivated. All right. So when I break down some of the things that I do for health, and I work with individuals from ages right now, 40s, all the way up into 90s. I break it down into these kinds of things, which isn't rocket science. And for the most part, if you are into health and wellness, you understand that you need to have appropriate workouts. Yes, they need to be functional. I do create workouts for the individual to help them function in their life and also make them efficient. You shouldn't be working out unless you're really into hypertrophy and muscular development. You can achieve absolute health with 30-minute workouts 2 to 3 times a week and hack in the other parts of what we'll get to in a second. Your nutrition, it needs to be an all whole foods diet. Within that, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to lose weight, obviously we can drop that. We can adjust that per your goals. Gut health. Unless you've been living under a log, you realize that gut health is going to have a massive impact on your mindset and the way you assimilate food. So yes, you have to be able to take care of your gut health. Play theory. Everyone I work with, they absolutely must take care of their mind in the way that they move. And so I encourage everyone, actually, it's almost a demand that they go find something that they really find themselves in, whether it's rock climbing, skydiving, wingsuiting, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. Getting some play theory in there really raises your happiness levels. We have to hack your sleep. We have to hack your stress. We have to improve your mindset and flexibility and mobility. Now, these are all basic things that most people should know and should be weaved into program. Now, my job as a health and wellness coach is to hack it to the most efficient, discard what isn't needed, because a lot of people will think they have to go do 3 yoga classes a week. And while I actually enjoy doing that and it's a priority for me, for most people, they can't afford the time to do that. That's all they have the time to do. We might be able to hack that down to 5 to 10 minutes of stretching a few times a week to make sure that they don't injure themselves. All right, so this is from Galatians, from the Bible. Now, I'm necessarily preaching the Bible here, but this is the old, you reap what you sow, right? Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For wherever a man sows, he shall reap. And what I'm alluding to with this passage, this verse, is what's going on in the mind, what's going on when you eat, what's going on when you work out. What you are essentially planting is what's going to grow and you're going to get back. And so what I'm going to start doing is really pointing into why you actually lack the motivation to make the changes. I showed you the long list in the previous slide as to why you are not potentially doing it. Well, I'm not doing all this, but I kind of know I need to do all these things, but I can't get myself to do it or find the motivation or find the discipline. And again, I also showed you that it's probably not your fault. All right. This is a big one. The subconscious runs the show. Mind your thoughts. Now, the vast majority of what's happening on in our mind is happening on a subconscious level. And what I'm about to do is show you guys the understanding how your bodies work. We're going to talk a little bit about the HPA axis, what adrenal fatigue is, what amygdala hijack is, understand the hypothalamus, and understand how that ties into gut health. And all of this is going to help you understand, if you're like me, I was telling myself, man, I just suck. I suck today. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't happening, why I couldn't step into certain things, step into change, and why I kept struggling with my own health. Now, I've been in the business for 30 years. I encountered my own health challenges when I was in my mid 30s, which kind of had me feeling lethargic, emotional, feeling like I was going through some kind of andropause, low testosterone, weight gain, moody. I could not recover. I was chronically sore. And so hopefully I connect a few dots here. All right. So, how emotions slash stress affect your body? Now, big reason I throw in the slash is because once I start talking about emotions, people, particularly my dudes, they want to zone out. And any way you slice it, stress is going to have an impact of the body. But where that comes from and how back in your story is going to impact your understanding of what you need to do to gain your mind back. So, the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the emotional center of your brain. Understand this, guys. This is super important. When you are stressed or you have an emotion, it is felt in your hypothalamus. Now, that hypothalamus is directly, not indirectly, directly wired via the vagus nerve to the heart, lungs, liver, pancreas, kidneys, spleen, gallbladder, and your reproductive organs. So, let's take, for example, on a conscious level. Conscious level, someone cuts you off in traffic, you get angry. That anger is transmuted to your GI system, to adrenal glands, to your pituitary glands, and to all parts of your body, right? And let's just say simply, do you think anger is going to upregulate those systems or downregulate? You guessed it right. It's going to have a negative effect. Now, this is on the conscious level. So by the time you have a conscious thought, a conscious feeling, there's a whole lot going on. Most people, when they get cut off in traffic, are dealing with a cumulative. They are feeling that, but that's sort of the straw that broke the donkey's back. Think about it. This might be you. All right, so this is the most sciencey part of this talk. Is a bigger description of that HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Now, we just talked about how your hypothalamus is wired to your body. And so, what I'm going to do is break down verbally here and with this slide how that has a negative impact on your body systems. Right, so we start off with number one, the hypothalamus activation. When you experience stress or negative thoughts, the hypothalamus, which is the brain's emotional center, sends a signal to the pituitary gland via the release of gonadotropin, releasing hormone. Now, this is how it's sent to the pituitary gland, right? This is a gland. The pituitary response. Now, you don't have to actually remember the names. I have them here of the hormones. They're here for you. What you need to do is the pituitary gland, the master gland, because it regulates various endocrine systems, responds by releasing another hormone into the bloodstream. That hormone travels through the bloodstream down into your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are sitting on top of your kidneys. They're these little stress glands, stimulating them, releasing cortisol. That should ring a bell. That hormone is all over the place. This is a stress hormone. The adrenal glands also release adrenaline and noradrenaline, epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is responsible for fight or flight response. So if we backtrack back up to number one, you're in that traffic. You're having this anger. This anger releases something in the pituitary gland, which activates your adrenals by releasing stress hormone. This increases the heart rate, blood pressure, and your alertness. You're in a fight or flight reaction. Now, never mind that there's a lot of data that shows that most people are sitting at their desk and guzzling coffee and having a fight or flight response while they're sitting there. Most people can understand when they get this huge adrenaline dump and they're in traffic or they're in a fight or flight situation, like you're being assaulted, something scary is happening. But a lot of people are activating their adrenal system, this HPA axis, all the time. Now, the feedback to the brain, elevated cortisol levels send feedback back to the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland to signal that the body has mounted a stress response, which can either reduce or maintain the level of stress hormone. It's a feedback loop, guys, on perceived threats. However, if the negative thoughts or the stress persists, the HPA axis remains activated, keeping cortisol and adrenaline levels high. What are the physical and emotional impacts of this system? Chronic activation of these glands through repeated negative thoughts can lead to various health issues. Now, the information is all there about what's happening. You are in a chronic fight or flight situation, and this can have a negative feedback loop. This all impacts your endocrinology, your hormones. They can impact your ability to have motivation, guys. So if you have an HPA axis issue, you're feeling like you're in chronic stress, you're not going to have that ability to push through. No discipline. If you're really, really breaking it down, you're not going to have the discipline or motivation to do this. Now, how is this related to your gut health? Cortisol has a real negative impact. Now, that was the most sciencey one. This is going to break it down simply. That cortisol, that stress hormone that's put out, starts to flatten out the villi in the GI system. So if you're feeling, generally when you have that HPA axis issue or that adrenal fatigue issue, all of a sudden you're low energy, you're gassy, you're bloated, and you're sensitive to everything. Stress hormones impact the GI system by making it more permeability, by increasing the permeability of the walls. So the walls of the intestine start to flatten out and open up. All of a sudden, food gets into the bloodstream. Food gets in the bloodstream. It creates an autoimmune reaction to the food. You're allergic and sensitive to everything. And this creates another negative feedback loop. This comes back to the body. That autoimmune response increases even more your cortisol. Now, pulling apart the conscious versus subconscious. So that's the basic front end. But a lot of people start to really pull apart their daily life. That first level, like, I got to start taking care of my stress. And they reduce it only to realize like they still feel the same. And so what starts to happen is they start going upstream here. The biggest thing is going upstream. We have 80,000 thoughts a day, and 95 to 98% of them happen on the subconscious level. I encourage you, if you don't believe or have a hard time believing what I'm about to tell you, the first thing on this list is the placebo effect. Think about that. If you give someone medication that you just tell them is going to do something, in many cases, data shows you have a self-healing event where you think the belief that this medication is going to help you helps you, right? So as we go upstream, we start to realize that our subconscious thoughts that are ruling everything can create bad habits or bad thoughts. And it's a chicken or an egg argument. Which one came first? For me, I was always trying to, when I was in my mid-30s, trying to figure out what is it that created this problem. I want to get to the root. And it's a chicken or an egg. Is it because of that bad programming that really impacted how I reacted in my day-to-day, or vice versa? Either way, it really is going to have an impact. It doesn't matter. We have to deal with it both. And a good health and wellness coach can help you go back. Success leaves clues, guys. We know that if we go upstream, the people in their mindset are next level. And so having control of your thoughts is going to help you to have a success in your health. And it really comes down to this. The last thing on this slide is, are you a victim or are you a creator? Are we going to sit back and wait for something to just take us, or are we going to create the life that we want? Are we going to create the health that we want? Now, as we get to the end of this presentation, I have a few quotes that I always share with clients. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Really, it comes down to having a lot of people will repeat the same thing. Okay, I'm going to diet. If I go do cardio, it's gonna be better. If I starve myself, it's going to be better. Only to like sputter out. How many times do you have to do that before you realize that there's something more at play? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will have a direct. It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So as I've gone over 30 years of experience and gone farther and farther upstream and helping people at higher and higher levels and across all boards, I realized that if I just go to the farthest upstream issue with you guys, that we have the greatest impact. And so going upstream to find out what is actually holding you back is the secret to long-term health, and understanding that these subconscious thoughts are what are really making you injured, what are really making you unwell, what are really having a negative impact on everything that you do. So look, I've been traveling with my family. I've been in this industry for a very, very long time. And I can tell you that unequivocally, I've seen lots of trends. And the greatest trend is to go farther upstream and understand what your programming is, understand the subconscious. For me, having the experiences of not only being in this business, but having my own HPA axis issue, understanding my subconscious thoughts, has helped me to help you guys. So I have a lot of different ways that I can help you. We can meet you daily. We can meet you a few times a week. We can meet you once a week, and I can give you homework. There is something for everyone, but the take home here is to take action. If you manage to make it to the end of this video and we're like, oh, this is what's missing in my life, take that next step. Send me an email, send me a message. Let's set up a consult and finally start to unpack what is impacting your health, because you can live the life of your dreams. I'm living the life of my dreams with the people closest to me. People told me that I couldn't do what we're doing. 10 years later, we've raised our family on the road. We have we have 5 beautiful children that we've raised that way. They're all thriving. They're all happy and active. They're all directed. We homeschool our kids. We have defied the norm. And so my question to you is, do you want to defy the norm? All right, that's it for today. Until next time, guys, take care.